Page 48, 4 lines from the end of the page. Okay, the Alter Rebbe is explaining in this Maimer, but it says in Eitz Chaim, that where does leprosy come? Because the level of Chochmah leaves. He starts explaining there's Chochmah and there's Bina. And he says, Bina is an understanding of Hashem, which causes a person to love Hashem. The only problem with that is in a high lofty level is that there's, Ava is a Yesh. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Yesh Mishoyev. There's somebody who loves. Chochmah, on the other hand, is a level of Bittul, and therefore that is a level of Mata L'mayla. In other words, Bina is a revelation from above. Chochmah is the Bittul of the person that causes that Bittul. So he says that what happens when a person loses the Meichen of Abba, the Meichen of Bittul, so then the godliness leaves him, so he's dead. Because he's not a Keli, there's no vessel, because he doesn't have the level of Bittul. Okay, so then he said, V'zau inyan Metzora. Therefore, this is the inyan Metzora. The Gemara says, what is Metzora? Meitzi Shem Ra. A person who speaks bad about somebody else, like it says, Lev, which are called shame. Hainu, Kol HaTorah, Kula Shmeitzer Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because the Gemara Chazal tells like this, the whole Torah, every word in Torah is a name of Hashem. And the Rachel and Leah are Shem Tov. They're called good names. So there's Meitzi Shem Ra, and there's Shem Tov. Rachel and Leah are Shem Tov. Okay? And therefore, when a person speaks Lashon Hara, Shohei Pachatev, which is the opposite of good, in the vessels of Kedusha, Geirim Gamel Mail, B'Mokum Shem Tov, that even above, wait a second, in a place where there's a good name, which are Eisis V'Kem the Kedusha, Yatsu Tmud Osam. It comes out the exchange of the letters, which is called Ra. Okay, you have like this. The whole Torah is the names of Hashem. When a person gets leprosy, why does he get leprosy? Because he spoke Lashon Hara, which is Meitzi Shem Ra. So what happens is he actually brings out that the good name, which is the letters of Torah, the words of Torah, which are the names of Hashem, turn into evil. Meitzi, he brings out Shem Ra. Instead of Shem Tov, he brings out Meitzi Shem Ra in the source. Then, what he creates is that Kedusha becomes the source and gives chayis to evil. Like from leprosy comes the nourishment of evil. Okay? So that's why leprosy is chashiv kemes. Because what happens when a person speaks Lashon Hara, which is the cause of leprosy, he actually transforms good into bad, and then bad is able to sustain itself from Kedusha. Now when evil sustains itself from not Kedusha, it's very weak. And now when a person speaks, a person is rooted in Kedusha. That's why, like we learned in many places, when a person does an Aveda, what happens when they do an Aveda? They actually nourish evil. Now, why do they nourish evil? The evil existed before they did it. Why do they nourish evil? Because, like this, evil, and that's why the whole concept of negative commandments is not to do it, not to eat, not to think, not to speak, whatever the negative commandment is. What you do is, when a person eats chazer, they give nourishment to the level of pig. Pig is klipa. So klipa basically is darkness. Basically it's not real chayis from Hashem, it only what it thinks it's chayis from Hashem. It blows itself up. So when we don't feed it, it automatically gets weakened. When we feed it, it gets strong. Especially we come from Kedusha. So when a person says Lashon Hara, it's now Kedusha becoming the nourishment of evil. And therefore evil becomes strong. In any negative commandment.
There is no neutrality.
There's no, the neutrality is until you touch it.
Did I go this way or go this way?
Yeah, but it's this way or that way before we touch it. Once we touch it, it either goes up or down.
The only way the evil gets stronger is from Kedusha?
Correct. The only way evil gets strong is when we feed it. Nobody else can feed evil. Only a Jew can feed evil by transgressing a negative commandment. That means the holy Jew is doing something Hashem says don't, so we're feeding that level of don't. And therefore it becomes powerful.
When going
The same.
doesn't become stronger.
What?
When going uses
No. If Goy eats a cheeseburger, he didn't do anything wrong. So he didn't strengthen the cheeseburger.
If you have 2 billion people believing in Buddha, that doesn't make Buddha stronger?
In their Sheva mitzvahs, it probably does, but also not at all to the extent of a Jew. Because the Goyim, their mitzvahs is to civilize the world. They don't have anything with Kedusha. They don't bring down Kedusha when they keep any of the 7 mitzvahs, or they don't bring evil in. So it doesn't, you can't say a guy worships Buddha, which is Avodah Zarah, even for a guy. You can't say that he's
Psychologically speaking, when a lot of people do the same thing, that popularizes that thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it strengthens it.
Okay. And now what-
Popular doesn't mean it's good, I mean it's strengthened.
If more and more people do it, then it's very
It
strong.
still doesn't, no. Only a Jew can make it nourish from Kedusha.
I think maybe what he's saying, if a lot of people do it and then Jews do it and make it a thing.
That's a different, then the Jews, the only thing that could strengthen evil is the Jew.
And is it the same, you're talking about the Chazir, because that fell so low, right?
We can't elevate it.
But when you elevate it with negativity, it goes even higher than something that didn't fall so low?
No, you just strengthen the power of evil.
But not to a greater extent because it's...
No,
We are able to elevate Hazar and Mashiach.
Mashiach comes. That's why everybody Shvat Mashiach, they can have a cheeseburger. That's why when they built the tower, the Dar HaFlaga after the flood. So it said, what did they say? V'nasa lanu shem. Let's make for ourselves a name. Let's build this massive tower and make a name for ourselves. Or by Keirach it says Anshe Shem. All these cases of evil, the Torah uses the word shame, a name. What does that mean? Hainu. Right, when Keirach fought Aaron, who gamkin shlirot shi'an nevi'im, tfeilim l'nichnoim l'bchinas amshachas mechen da'aba, which is Aaron and Kohen. What did Levi want? Like this, what was Keirach's problem? You have to understand, Keirach wasn't this Russia off the street. Torah testifies about Keirach. Pikechaya, Torah says he was brilliant. Keirach was a lofty person. He was Moshe Rabbeinu's cousin. What was his problem? He messed up what Hashem wants. In other words, Hashem said there's Koyanim and there's Leviim. And Leviim are lower than Koyanim. And he wanted, like it's going to be lost at Lavi, that's what he wanted. He wants what it be lost at Lavi, that Leviim are going to become Koyanim. He said, well, we have now that Leviim are lower than Koyanim. Koyanim are Chesed, and Leviim are Gvura. And Koyanim are Leviim are lower than Chesed. He says, why? Which is Aaron HaKoyin. Lias Leviim daber fnei atzmei, which is Ratza Bilvat. Which was really, as Chassidus explains, that's what would be when lost in Lavi. In the time of Mashiach. So what did Keirach want to do? Just like we said, the Yitzchak wanted to bless Esau because he saw him in the source, and Yaakov and Esau, they wanted to accomplish things like lost in Lavi. And Hashem said, no, it's not the time. There's a system, there's a progression, there's a systematic order of things, the way they're going to happen. But Keirach wanted, this is what it says in other places in this also, that Keirach wanted, it should be like Lost Lavi. So based on this, he wasn't such a rotten guy, you know what I mean? Huh? What's wrong with it? Because the Eibishter said no, not now.
Oh, later.
Duh.
Besides the fact that was going to create anarchy.
Oh, not anarchy.
Yeah, he wanted everybody to be the king. Everybody to be the Kohen Gadol. Maybe when Mashiach comes, everybody will... Yeah.
He didn't want everybody to be Kohen Gadol. He wanted everybody to be Kohanim.
Well, what's going to happen to the Levi at the time of Mashiach? They become Kohanim. What's going to happen to Sheva Levi? There's no more Levi? They become Kohanim.
Kohanim are from Levi also. What are you saying?
Correct.
No.
Correct. But
You don't need Levi.
No, they work in the
Yeah, but there's a different style.
I want to understand.
Well, when Mashiach comes, we'll figure it out.
He wanted everybody to be...
What?
I want to understand what the Rebbe is saying. Understand. If a Russian soldier goes and kills a Ukrainian child, which is ill, is because a Jew gave him the energy. Is that what he's saying?
To a certain extent, yes.
Who's saying that?
He's extrapolating from the Maimer that if a Jew does an Avera, he strengthens evil, so that gives a guy koyach to do bad things. Yeah, to a certain extent, that's what he's saying. You know, like the Goyim, the anti-Semites are saying the Jews run the world. The reality is, we do. I don't even mean they're talking about financial, this. I'm talking about in Ruchnius, we run the world. We bring Kedusha into the world or bring evil into the world. We make the world better or corrupt the world. Yeah.
Therefore, we are creating anti-Semitic. We are the one.
We didn't create it because Rashi says, if in the Gemara Rashbi, Rav Shimon Yochai said, Halacha Ravachas Esav Sein Yaakov. Hashem created the natural inborn trait that a guy hates a Jew. Anti-Semitism is not a chiddush. Anti-Semitism existed from creation. Existed from creation.
It's in the blood.
Yeah.
Hashem created it?
Yeah.
It helps to hide godliness.
But like everything else in the world, Hashem created evil also. Is it halachically forbidden for a guy to hate a Jew? No. It's not one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei. It's not one of the 7 mitzvahs you're not allowed to hate a Jew. You're allowed to hate a Jew. You can't kill a Jew, that's one of the 7 mitzvahs B'nei. You can't steal, whatever. But to hate a Jew, why? It's not forbidden for a guy to. Where does it say a guy can't hate a Jew? It's not one of the 7 mitzvahs B'nei. So yes, what Al Rebbe is saying over here is that the power of evil that exists in the world is because the Jew does evil. And therefore it affects the whole world.
So when a rabbi in Israel said because tsunami happened,
Tsunami or tsunami?
tsunami,
I think you said tsunami happened, yeah.
tsunami happened, Jews have to do teshuvah and everybody attacked that rabbi. He was not wrong.
He was wrong.
How is it wrong? You just say that's what it is.
Not everything, number one, it's not true. But in fact, even if it's true, not everything is true you have to say. So a person have to say, because a person who says negativity about a Jew, or a rabbi who blames a Jew and says it's the Jew's fault, is ruining the whole concept of Yiddishkeit because he's speaking bad against the Jew. He's meitzi shemra. He's losing that level of bittul. Instead of finding merit for the Jews by saying it shouldn't have happened, the Taka should, complaining to Hashem that it shouldn't have happened, that's say, yeah, you know why it happened? Because this. The Rebbe would scream whenever these big guys, officially they were big, the Rebbe would scream, how do you say such a thing? Holocaust happened because of this. Or this happened in Israel because of gay rights. And this happened because of this. The Rebbe would scream by Fabrengens. Screaming, mamish screaming. How does a Jew come and speak negativity about a Jew? Because, like we're learning about Lashon Hara, The Gemara says in Erech, the famous Gemara, that Lashon Hara kills 3 people. Yeah, it kills 3 people. The talker, the listener, and the guy they're talking about. Yeah? So Rabbi in the Gemara explains like this. He asks a question. The talker I know. The listener I know. No listener, no talker. Now but the poor guy they're talking about doesn't even know they're talking about him. Why is he getting killed? So Rabbi explains, the Chassidus brings this down a lot, that when you speak something, you reveal. We spoke about that last night, whatever. When you speak, you reveal it in the world. Like the Rabbi Yosef brought a new concept of Torah in the world. He revealed it in the world. When a person has bad, but people don't talk about it, that evil within the person is dormanted. It's quiet. When you speak about somebody else's evil, you're actually revealing in the world that person's evil. So he suffers from it also. It could be he didn't even know you spoke about him. But the fact that you reveal that person's evil in the world affects the person also. Based on what we can understand very simply, based on the Rambam, when the Rambam says that one thought, one speech, one action, the world's an equally balanced scale, and one action for good or bad can weigh the whole world down to good and bad, that's what it means. So a Jew, by doing something wrong, has the ability, because Hashem gave us the ability, that evil now becomes very, very powerful. Which affects everybody in the world. Therefore, the guy will do evil, and this will happen evil, but not Chas V'Shalom to blame the Jew that it's his fault.
Not even 2% of Jewish people know this concept.
No, less. How many Jews learn Chassidus? Now Chassidus infiltrated the world, everything is Chassidus.
Right and wrong, probably they think that about the Shkolim, who wanted it this way, aseh lo taseh. They don't understand. The concept is...
So go teach him. Do something about it instead of complaining. Okay, let's skip to base. Vinay, Hatik and Shon Negoyim for awesome. What is the? How do you rectify Negoyim? The Torah says, okay, you have to bring him to the Kohen. So let's understand. Leprosy by Meitzi Shemra, you're removing the Me'ach of Chochmah. Because Chochmah is bittul, right? Now you're doing something wrong. So therefore, how do you rectify it? You have to bring back that Orach Chochmah. That level of bittul. So what do you have to do? The Torah says you have to go to the Kohen. Kohen is the one that brings Chochmah down. Like Aaron HaKohen.
Shuvah cannot do it?
Huh?
Shuvah.
No. Because you don't know if the guy, who proclaims the guy pure or impure? Only the Kohen. Not only that, we discussed by the class Monday night that the halacha is, if what happens to a Kohen is an Amoritz. He doesn't know the halacha is, he doesn't know. So the Kohen calls in the Chacham, and he says, is it or isn't it? The Chacham tells the Kohen what it is, and the pronunciation is through the Kohen. That's what the halacha is. Okay, Rashi says, kineg, whatever. So the Rebbe asks, but if the guy says it's Negoyim, why can't the Chacham just say it's Nega? Why does the Kohen have to be the one to do it? So no, the Rebbe says the only one that can put a Jew excommunicated is only a person who's permeated with chesed. In other words, the only one who has a right to criticize a Jew, let's put it into practical language, and the Rebbe screamed about this many times. The only one that has a right to criticize a Jew is only if you love them to the ultimate. Then you have a right to criticize. Otherwise you have no right to criticize. because then it's not real criticism. It's for you to make yourself sound better, bigger, greater, putting down somebody else. People like to put down somebody else because they think it makes them bigger.
Step on the wall.
So the Rebbe, the Merash told the Razor and the Rebbe, Rashab, you don't become greater by putting somebody down, you put yourself greater by standing on a stool. Okay, so he says, Ki akainu mamshich erd abak, mishkosa patu aleis chesanedis. Binyan shalach godlu mishalahem. Like it says that Aaron Kain's kindling the menorah was greater than the Nasim's carbon. By day, Hamshachas Meichen the Abba Bizah. By the Kohen bringing down Meichen Abba into Zah. As I Yisaid Abba, Bekei Yisaid Ema. Whatever. Then the Yisaid of Chachma breaks the Yisaid of Bina, and it becomes the level of Shuv. Okay, whatever. Bottom line is, now it's a bunch of Kabbalah, but the bottom line is that Metzora is caused by lacking Chachma, and the Kohen is the one that brings it back. And that's the only way you could rectify a Kohen, by saying that the person is not Tameh anymore. And by the way, it says that sometimes you have to lock it up, for a week or two. Why let him make a Tameh or not? Because the Torah says, you know what? You better do tshuva. We're giving you still an opportunity to do tshuva, that it should become pure. Because Yaakov is the letters Yiboka breaking through. She said Abba Bekei said Ema. Umisham Shechashbar Esis Machshava V'Diba, which is Leib and Rachel. Ba'ad in the Levush Machshava Diba Umaisa. Okay, whatever. So the pearl. That's why Yaakov married Rachel and Leah. Yaakov's letters Bokeah, he breaks through the Leah and Rachel. Leah, like he said before, is not only Shem Tov, but he said one is Machshava, one is Dibur, and you break through the barriers, and that's what happens. That's what the pasuk starts by saying. This is the laws of Metzora. Kizau inyan amri zeis teres ha-Metzora. Because the whole life of the Metzora, the chayus that the Metzora has, is l'sibas histalkus mechem mitzad abba chachma, which is called Torah. And therefore, ein tikun alidei eisek ha-Torah. L'chein amr, therefore, this is what he's quoting now from the Eitz Chaim. The Eitz Chaim says, what does it mean? Zeis tia Torah sa-Metzora. Why doesn't it say Zeis tia tahara sa-Metzora, tumas ha-Metzora? But it's a weird statement. The Torah is telling us when a leper is tamei or tahar. It should say Zeis tumas ha-Metzora, Zeis tahara sa-Metzora. This is the way he becomes tamei. Why does it say Zeis Torah sa-Metzora? So the Rabbis are right, because Torah is the level of Chachma. Torah is the level of Chachma. Chachma is Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we learned that the whole reason the Metzora becomes a leper is because Chachma leaves him. So by Torah and the Kohen, you bring Chachma back into him. And then he gets the bittul, and then he becomes non-excommunicated, excommunicated. Now he becomes back to normal. Okay, Torah is the book of life. What is life? Healing. That's the healing of a Metzora that brought out Shem Ra, that gave nourishment to evil. So how do you do it? You have to bring him to the Kohen, who brings down the level of Choch Bittul into him. Chochma is Re'iyah Bittul. That's why Aaron's the letters Nira, which is sing. And it brings in the level of Bittul. And that's why it says Torah sa-Metzora, because that's the level of Torah. It brings down this level of Chochma, and that's what it says, Teiv Shem Mishem and Teiv. Shlomo Melech says, A good Teiv Shem, a name is better than good oil. Shaidei Atei, which is Shem and Atei, Chochmi Law, becomes brought down Shem to Atavas Hashem. Like Atavas HaNeir is bettering the name, like it says, the Eilish Shmeis. Laskona, rather the Shmei, to fix the name of Hashem, Haine Aidei term mitzvahs, which are Shem and Atei Mishchas Kedesh, opposite of Shem Ra, and there, so that's how you purify Metzora. Okay, very practically, okay, what we need to go away with, not this Kabbalah stuff, but simple. Meitzi Shem Ra, which causes Saras, Lashon Hara, is because the person is lacking bittul. If you have bittul, then you don't look at somebody else that I can belittle them or speak bad about them. Why do you belittle somebody else? Because you think you're better than them. So that is a lack of bittul. So that causes the bittul to leave. And that causes, once Chachma leaves, Chachma gives life. Yamusu v'lei b'Chachma, you die if you don't have Chachma. So Chachma is life, bittul is life. Because we know even in the human body, we mentioned many times, the Rabbi spoke, that a healthy person doesn't feel his limbs. A healthy person doesn't feel their stomach or their head or their hand or whatever. When you're sick, when you're lacking proper life, that's when you feel your stomach. You have a stomach ache. Which means the stomach then is not bottled to the neshama, and therefore it's sick, it's lacking chayis. Because chayis means bittul. A healthy person means the whole body is functioning, syncage, whatever, synchronized. The whole body is synchronized together, then it's a healthy person, because then you don't feel I have a hand in the stomach, it's all bittul. So a person starts speaking Lashon Hara, they lack the level of bittul, so they become dead, Metzora. So how do you rectify it? You have to bring back the level of Chachma that you got rid of. And that's through the Kayin and through the level of Torah. That's very simple, practical. She has a lot of interesting Kabbalah words about it, but that's the practical level of it. Oh. You're the timekeeper.